Oh my guys, welcome to today's episode of
Nah,
Hush.
we don't start like that. Hold on.
Wait, what happened?
We
Oh, we
recording, but
start
we
with
don't
our
start like that. Hold on.
we
We gotta
start
do
with
the
our
intro.
thing, right?
We gotta
Our
do the
intro.
intro.
Forgot. Hey guys, hola. Welcome to today's episode of Hush Your Mouth. In honor of May being Mental Health Awareness Month, on today's episode, we will be talking about the stigma of mental health.
Yeah.
Guys, what y'all think?
Hey. So I
Right.
think mental health is very prevalent in our community, and I think it's a topic that we don't often discuss. And for us to be completely honest and transparent, it's a great opportunity for us to touch on this topic and have a robust conversation about mental health.
Okay. Firstly, I think it's very important for us to even educate our viewers and tell them what qualifies us to even talk about this or shed light or tell them our perspective when it comes to mental health and this topic. Stigmas and awareness.
So you want to start first, or you want to start first? Why do I feel educated to talk on this?
Yes, you can talk about why you feel educated to talk
I
about
feel
this.
educated to talk on mental health because I've been dealing with mental health probably my whole entire life. I have family members who have mental illness. I have friends that have mental illness. So it's just I feel like it's like normal because it's around. It's been around.
Okay. Well, for me, I thought it would be good to shed some light on real life crises that are happening around us. You can't really see mental illness when you meet people. It can't be detected by a CAT scan or anything. And there's really no real way to diagnose it. They base it basically off of a series or system of tests created by other people. Um, but there's so many people who suffer from mental health. You know what I mean? And they are misjudged for it.
Yeah.
But
I, I
what
to-
kind of, oh,
Oh,
go
no,
ahead.
I was saying I totally agree with you. I think mental health is something that we all deal with. It's not an illness per se, 100%, but it's your mental health. And how do you take care of your mental health? We all have bodies, we all have minds, we all have souls, depending on your belief structure, whatever it is. But we all have some sort of mental health thing that we are dealing with, whether it's the day to day life, whether it's stress, anxiety, several different things that is a part of your mental health. And if we are not paying attention to it, it decays, it goes down. If you don't exercise, you have issues with health. Just like you go to a doctor every, 6 months to make sure you're okay. Just like you go to get, a STD test or whatever the case may be, which we encourage you to do that. You want to make sure you want to make sure that your mental health is checked up on too. And I think that that's one area of our body of ourselves that we never take time to check up on and make sure that that's okay as much as we do other parts of our body.
I
Mhm.
agree.
I definitely get what you're saying, but well, there is definitely a difference between mental health and mental illness. They all deal with the state of the mind,
Hmm.
but they're two different entities in themselves, in my own opinion. But that is for a later question because we just definitely like skipped through, like skip ahead.
We
um,
always do. We always do.
we do. We gotta circle back because you just was like, well, church finger, no church finger. Um, But I was basically going based off of the fact that I feel like one, my career path of 11 plus years qualifies me to speak on these type of issues and the type of people that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. Not to mention myself and my upbringing. So I don't know. You said you grew up with
mental health around me. Yeah, my brother suffers from mental illness. My sister suffers from mental illness. I have an adopted brother that suffers from mental illness. This is I had a lot of friends and still have friends to this day that suffer from mental illness. So yeah, it's just always been around me.
Yeah, I grew up with a schizophrenic grandmother, a bipolar uncle, a grandfather that suffered from PTSD, and then myself, I have mental health issues and concerns. I don't know how you say that. That's not even something to laugh about, but for real.
Because it's one thing to have it, but it's another thing to say it out loud.
To say it out loud.
Yes, so I suffer from mental illness.
Yeah, so I suffer from this. I suffer from mental illness. I myself have experienced many traumatic events in my own life, which cause mental illness to occur in people's lives most of the time, as well as their environment and things like that. So that goes into the question of what shapes our mental health. Your environment, your experiences, and your social connections can shape
and
your
how much
mental health.
I think so. How much time you put into you, because it's so easy to get wrapped up in all those things you just named that you feel like you're okay, but because you're not putting time into you, are you like okay?
So I have a bonus fact.
What's your bonus fact?
My bonus fact is, did you know that Western civilization has way more mental health issues than Eastern civilization? Why is that? You guys know?
No.
I'm going to tell you why.
I've got thoughts on it, but I don't know.
Oh, let me hear your thoughts before I jump out the window.
I mean, you can just look at the culture of it. Like if you examine, our culture versus the culture of the Middle East versus certain cultures within Asia and things like that, and if you go as deep as in something as simple as meditation, which comes from that region of the world. Like meditation is something that's great on stress relief, which can form, different variations of mental stress and mental illness. So, when I think about it and I, think about worldly, I could see how that would make sense. But I don't know if I've got the right answer. So you tell me.
Well, that is kind of sort of the answer. You're on the right path there, Mason. The real answer is that when they are always able to see the happier side of things and find light even within darkness. That's just because that's the culture in which they operate. Most people in the eastern part of the world are very religious, but their religions are a little bit different than ours. You know what I mean? They know that sadness is temporary. This is from my own experiences and having conversations with people during my own travels. They know that emotions are like temporary. I'm not going to be mad forever, or I'm not going to be sad forever. Like this won't last always. They understand how energies work. I learned a lot of stuff about energies just through my traveling and talking to people with different cultures. And then they don't isolate themselves when they're sad. They actually go out and try to be around other people because they understand energy. So I don't know. Maybe we need to take a page out of the Eastern civilizations book.
If I start feeling like something is off, I want to be by myself.
Yeah. No, they people can make you happy. Because, when I'm sad, you come around.
Yeah. But when I'm sad, I don't come around. See the difference?
Yeah.
But there's not a right or wrong answer. I mean, I think everything's based on individualism. So I don't think that, staying away or being around people that there's a right or wrong answer.
Right or wrong.
I think you've got to discover yourself and see what
No.
is right for you.
For you.
What do you guys think?
I agree.
I think that definitely knowing what works for you can help a person cope with their various things. You know what I mean? I know what works for me is definitely like time to myself to be able to process things and to just like regroup. I need to regroup.
Yeah. It depends on where I'm at and what exactly I'm feeling. That determines whether I want to be alone or if I want to surround myself with other people. So it just depends on what it is exactly that I'm dealing with because I've been dealing with so much stuff.
Yeah. So now, earlier we talked about them being mental health and mental illness being two different entities. What do you think the difference is? Or is there even a difference in your own opinion?
So what did I write down? I wrote down mental health is about mental wellness, and mental illness is when someone is diagnosed with a mental disorder. That's in a nutshell.
I totally agree. I think that mental health is general, and mental illness is, I liken it unto getting sick and getting, the same type of treatment. So, we all need to maintain our mental health.
Yeah,
But then mental illness is a different level of it. So if if you break a bone in your body, like you feel, something's wrong in your leg, right? So you go to the doctor for them to diagnose it and, take the necessary steps. It's the same thing for your mental. Sometimes it's, depression and you feel something wrong with your body. Something's wrong. I feel depressed. I don't feel myself. And we just don't do the next steps. But I think that that's the difference for me. Mental health is the overall health, and then mental illness is, a specific thing that may be wrong or not up to the bar of how you should be feeling or how you normally feel.
Yes. So I agree with both of you guys. And based off of my research, we are all right. There is a big difference between mental health and mental illness. I personally, like you guys, feel like mental health is our overall. Mental illness we have less control over, and medications and treatment may be necessary. Mental health, like you guys said, is how you feel on a day-to-day basis and how well we interact with each other. I feel like that's where self-care comes into play. Daily check-ins, like people don't even ask, like, okay, so I have a habit and it shocks the people every time. So, like when you call customer service or something like that, and they're like, hey, what's your name or whatever, what's your account information, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, hi, how are you today? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm fine. Thank you for asking. How are you? And I'm like, and I'll tell them whether or not I'm having a good day or not having a good day. But it's very important to do those check-ins. I think sleep contributes to mental wellness. Like it does. The lack of sleep or too much sleep is either way. You just need to have a healthy balance. And I know that I can attest to this because when I'm in my depression state, I may sleep too much, or when my meds are off, I may sleep too much, and then that makes me feel like I wasted my whole entire day away. And then now I'm going into the downward spiral because now I feel like, well, what the fuck? You know what I mean? What did you?
I've had other problems where like I don't sleep enough, and it's due to either work, usually being overworked. So I had the same job for a few years, and literally the turnaround time would be 8 hours, 7 hours, something crazy like that. And for me mentally, to be at and to perform at the level that I'm used to, I would need to get some sort of rest, to be able to bring energy and bring that type of environment to life. And that's what I was responsible for. And for me, that trickled down into stress, and it trickled down into being burnt out and things like that. And that's a form of, not taking care of your mental health too. It seems very simple, and it seems like something that we don't think about, but, overworking is a contributing thing to your mental health that can be negative. And it's small, but it can grow to be something big.
I feel like you're talking to myself, Mason. Because when I tell y'all, I don't get no sleep. I get no sleep.
You need to check on that.
I sleep for 3 hours and I'm up and I'm back to sleep, and I'm up, and I'm back to sleep, and I'm up, and I'm back to sleep. So I know that there is definitely something going on. I just haven't, I don't want to say cared enough, but I haven't like wanted to explore completely what's really going on. But I know it's something.
You don't want to explore?
It's not that I don't want to explore, but we'll get into that as we go down into the more questions.
Oh, okay. Well, also another factor that can affect your mental health is they say dieting. So now I ain't on nobody's diet, and I probably can't successfully complete a diet as much as I want to tell myself that I can. Because if I'm hangry, I don't care what mood I'm in, you better run because I'm hungry. So I don't care anything about that.
And I could relate to that too, because I'm always on some sort of, it looks like a diet based on what I'm eating, but it's really not. It's what I like to eat. So if I'm having salmon and spinach or something, they'll look at it and be like, or somebody on the outside will look at it and be like, oh, you're on a diet. I'm like, no, this is just
what I like. This is
I'm having a salad because I like a salad, not because I'm on a diet. But the adverse part of that is too, at points when I got stressed, like that vending machine would be like my best friend, where I would, put a quarter in, or more than a quarter. What am I saying? Like put several quarters in. I've been to places where the vending machines were free, so like me saying a quarter.
Point me in the right direction.
I cannot speak to the company that I worked at, but in our corporate offices, the vending machines were free, and you were able to just walk up and take whatever you wanted.
Oh.
And that being said, like at those points when you were stressed and you're tired and you all those things are happening, your mental again plays a role, and you overeat, not because you want to, but just because it's there and it's a coping mechanism.
Eating is definitely a coping mechanism.
Oh yeah.
So
again.
What are some of our coping mechanisms when we're dealing?
That's a good question.
I eat, and I eat, and I eat. I eat until I'm happy. Oh. That's the reality of the situation. That's why I have a hard time losing weight when I want to lose weight, because.
But you've been doing so well.
I did, but I gained about 10 pounds back because I went through a little something, and I wanted to eat. I wanted the ice creams. I wanted the sweet stuff. And I didn't want to care about it. So eating is definitely a coping mechanism.
Well, dang. I don't know if eating is a coping mechanism for me. I just think I like to eat because I'm just really a fat person on the inside. I mean, a bigger girl, not that person. That's not nice. But a bigger person on the inside. Some of my coping mechanisms is I listen to music. Mm-hmm. I write letters to God. I write letters to my kids. Write letters to myself. And I will jump on a plane and be outside because I got to go. That is it. I need to go to regroup. I need to get myself back together. And I try to do something positive. I try to keep myself busy. I guess there was one point I was so sad that I was just like working all the time. Mm-hmm. So like nonstop. Like,
what else a coping mechanism is for me? I will clean the shit out of something. Like, I just start cleaning. So that's like a red flag. Like if I'm sitting somewhere and I'm quiet and I'm cool and I just get up and I start cleaning and it ain't really dirty, but I just want to clean it, something ain't right. Something's off. Something's bothering me. Need to talk to somebody ASAP.
Do you find that any of your coping mechanisms help you to either get over whatever you're feeling at the time, or does it just soothe it for the moment?
It soothes it for the moment. Only thing I can say I've ever done that made me feel better is go to sleep and wake up, because it's like, oh, it's over. I'm done. I'm gonna just try again tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. No, I think the best one for me is music and writing. That's like if I'm mad or if I'm in one of my moods or going through something, my baby like, put the jazz on, babe. Let's put the jazz on. Yeah, no, I need the Kenny G on the stereo because I cannot. Like, I just can't function right. Like, so music definitely does work. And music is the language of all languages, actually.
I relate to that. I'm big into music.
It's very...
What's your coping mechanism? You ain't tell us what's yours.
I mean, music is definitely one of them. I think music is a mood changer. I have a deep love for how music can, one, guide you through all kinds of emotions. And I think that music is very individual. I think that music takes you on trips to memory lane from,
Mhm.
when I played
Mhm.
sports, there were certain songs that I listened to. When DMX passed, I remember like listening to some of his music, before I would go play basketball, and the level of, hypeness that I would get from hearing, the Rough Rider anthem or things like that. So I do use music to transport me and to take me to different feelings and emotions. And I know what music is going to make me be, a little bit more introspective than I was, before. And I know what music's going to change my mood. And I feel like a lot of people has that relationship with music. So music is definitely one of them. Like I told you, I overworked myself. So like sleeping was a coping mechanism because I never got enough of it. I remember being on vacation and I think I was in the DR and I went to sleep. The next thing I knew was like 20 hours later. And that was just from not sleeping for so long and just being in quick bursts of
I never slept
work.
20 hours.
Oh, I did. I had a few drinks and the next thing I knew I was out and everybody was like, we just let you sleep. I was like, oh, thanks, because obviously
Yeah,
my
yeah.
body was like, nah, you know what? We shutting down because we've gone several months with
I
a
wish.
terrible schedule. I'd work 8 days, back to back and stuff like that, 14 days in ways that are not healthy. So, coping mechanism, my body just shut down. Like, and that could get really bad as well. Like, your body could shut down in different ways.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've experienced that a couple times too. Like I said, I don't get sleep, so that does catch up with me sometimes. I feel like it's a shutdown moment where I will sleep for hours. I will sleep a whole day away, and then it'll just be that, and I'll just be like, oh, there's always tomorrow.
I think that another thing that's kind of therapeutic for me is like getting my hair done and my nails done because I feel like you can hear that now. I feel like you look like how you feel sometimes, or you feel how you look. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But for me, because I love my like hair and my nails so much, sometimes it causes me anxiety. Because I don't know what color I want to choose to design. The girl's over there getting anxiety because she knows that I take my shit serious. It's just a lot. It's a lot. That indecisiveness causes my anxiety to go up. I don't like people to be uncertain. Like, no, I don't know. So, in a nutshell, we're saying that poor mental health care can lead to mental illnesses, but they are separate entities.
Yes.
That's what we're saying.
I think that's the best way to word that. That was one point.
It's in my notes.
Oh, okay.
Got it. Because I ain't read half of them, but I'm just letting y'all rock, just going with the flow here. Cutting a lot of stuff out. I'm going to do a separate video.
Hit her in the ends, Courtney.
I'm going to do a separate video that says everything that's on this because I did a lot of work with this topic. But which mental illness is more prevalent? Oh, no. First of all, what are some mental health disorders that's out there?
Yeah, I wrote a lot down. I wrote down schizophrenia, depression, bipolar, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, eating disorder, personality disorder, psychosis, substance use disorder. Don't know if I missed any.
It's substance abuse.
Oh, I seen substance use.
Okay.
But substance abuse, whichever one. Yeah. I don't know if I missed any, but
Dementia, oppositional defiance, claustrophobia, bipolar, ADHD, bulimia, anorexia.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely probably way more that we have not named.
You got some, Mason?
The only one that you guys didn't mention was just OCD. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Oh yeah, OCD is definitely a mental illness.
It is definitely.
I think I might suffer from that a little bit. I don't know.
No, you don't.
Sometimes I do. I feel like
no. That's not a sometimes thing. You are OCD. You are OCD. That's just how that goes. But so out of those, which one is like more prevalent to you, And why?
I have a few.
Do you?
Yep.
Oh, so
I have a brother, my little baby brother. He has schizophrenia.
How long has he had schizophrenia?
He was diagnosed when he was 17. Now, I don't know if this is a known fact, but I was told by my mom that you're born with schizophrenia, but an event triggers it to release. So this is not known, but I'm gonna put it out there. When he was 17, he was smoking weed with his friends, and somebody laced the blunt, and he went into a mental thing that triggered his schizophrenia. And to this day, he's medicated. He's had plenty outbursts. He has had plenty situations due to this illness. He's definitely heavily medicated. On another spectrum, I have a friend that's really close to me, and her brother also suffers from the same thing. So we bond on that, like being a sister of somebody who deals with this. So we've shared stories. It's like, I don't even want to go into the stories that people go through with schizophrenia. I also have dealt with my sister who's autistic, and she's also bipolar. Plenty stories there as well. We've been dealing with that since we were younger. She was diagnosed with bipolar when she was in her early 20s. Depression. I have several friends who have dealt with depression. I don't want to say I've dealt with depression, but I think I have. Anxiety. I have plenty of friends that deal with anxiety. One sitting to the left of me. I deal with anxiety myself. And I think that's the only ones I can think of that speak to me directly.
Okay. Well, you want to go next, Mason, or you want me to go next?
Nah, I'll go. That's fine.
Yay!
So I mean,
I need the applause on the floor.
Thank you. I'm glad for sure. So depression is something that I've seen, that I've been around, that I've either had to speak to somebody about directly. I think in the previous life, my previous job, I've dealt with, I've got stories upon stories of just different things that, people have come to me in confidence with, that I've had to either direct them to someone who can help them, or, for some way, shape, or form, help them myself in either dealing with it or just, talking it out or something along those natures. Anxiety is definitely one. I think I've suffered from that sometimes. I think I've suffered from all these things to a certain degree, maybe not to a medicated degree, but to some sort of degree that I've had anxiety. Does it stop me from doing certain things? Yes and no. Bipolarism is something that I've seen. Again, I've come in contact with people that have had it to a degree where they needed medication and things like that, and it was a matter of just being a friend and being there for them and having conversations that were very uncomfortable but very necessary. So I mean, I've dealt with a lot of different things with a lot of people, some my own, and then some friends, and some actually friends, relatives. So I've had somebody that their brother was schizophrenic.
I got that deal with the relatives that's not all the way right.
When I tell you that, I don't mean to cut you off, Mason, but I definitely want to speak from having a relative so close to me with something so severe. Schizophrenia is a very severe mental illness, and I don't really have a really close relationship with my little brother. And I think that that's the hindrance, because I don't know how to deal with the things that come with schizophrenia. It's a lot. It's a lot that comes with it, and it's a lot to deal with, and you have to have a lot of patience. So shout outs to my mom, because she's doing it daily. And I know it is not easy to do, and I try to be as supportive to her as possible, because I know that she doesn't have as many outlets as she would like to be supportive, because that's not something you walk around and say, hey, my son's schizophrenic. Hey, want to talk to me?
She's dealing with 3 adult children that are like dealing with
have some type of
mental
mental illness. So I definitely want to
we need the applause for
shout outs to
Roslyn.
Shout out to you.
Shout out to Roslyn. Yeah, no, your mom is kind of well, she's definitely dope. I always tell you, like, she's a strong woman for the things that she endures. And she continuously endures, and she still shows up to the plate for all of those children, no matter what it is, what has been done. Like, no.
Even me.
Yeah.
She still finds time for me and all of that. And all of that she has going on within herself, within her household, within whatever.
So you need to be more active in checking on Rosalind's
I check on Rosalind's mental health as much as I feel like it's needed. I have my own mental health to look after. So as of right now, in the space that I'm in, I may need to do more, but I'm a little more focused on myself.
Well, the mental illness that was prevalent to me was borderline personality disorder. It's said to be one of the hardest illnesses to treat, first of all. Even after all the studies in its field, it's still misunderstood, misdiagnosed, and it's a stigmatized condition.
And they don't medicate it properly.
BPD is characterized by unstable moods, behaviors, and relationships. Basically, it's like an emotional dysregulation disorder. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
People with BPD have a feeling of worthlessness, abandonment, self-images shifts, insecurities, impulsiveness, impaired social relationships, irritability, risk-taking behaviors, just to name a few, right? They even experience, people who suffer from this experience suicidal thoughts. So that's a lot.
That's a lot of
to
mental
deal.
Illness. Not to cut you off, but a lot of mental illness categories that we named. That is definitely on the list of symptoms. Is the suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, because that's the real tea for real. People, and it's so sad because people don't really take it that serious. And the only way that BPD is actually treated is through therapy, and sometimes they can medicate you, but again, sometimes the medication doesn't work. Do you know that a lot of therapists have a cap on how many patients with borderline personality disorder that they can have at one time?
Because it's a commitment. You have to commit to that person, and it's a lot to commit to. So they can't give you so many of those type of cases because you have to also maintain your mental health to be able to help somebody else with their mental health. And I think that's definitely important.
Well, it was personal to me because I suffer from it. Upon meeting me, though, you won't really know that, right? I work with people who are like me, so they love me because we can relate.
All 10 of y'all.
All 7, 8, 9 of us in here. Sometimes the meds work, sometimes they don't. And honestly, for me, every day is the luck of the draw. So if you need help and you might feel like you have BPD, call 1-800-662-HELP.
And when we do post this, we will put a lot of that information and those contact information in the actual, the briefing at the bottom, in the details. So that way, if they need help or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I want to do that.
Description. So we just make sure that we do that. So that way,
Right. But, so I have a fun fact. Because it says insert here.
I don't keep reading your stuff.
Got that. So, it's a lot of celebrities that actually suffer from BPD. Angela Jolie is one. Megan Fox, Steve Jobs was one. David Beckham, Anna Nicole Smith, to name a few.
Yeah, that's just who we know about. I'm sure there's a lot.
Yeah, there's more. There's more.
Definitely more.
So now, I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, but it was like, have you yourself personally dealt with or are dealing with mental illness? And how did this affect you, or how does this affect you on a daily basis? So you said you feel like
I feel like self-diagnosing myself, because I am not a doctor and I have not been to one. I definitely feel like I have anxiety.
What makes you feel like that?
I feel I have more anxiety now than I ever have. It's probably something I have always dealt with because I always overwhelm myself with things. I don't know how to say no. I don't know how to say this. It's too much for me. So now as I'm getting older, I'm starting to get like shivers. I'm starting to like get like headaches. I don't sleep at night. Sometimes I get to the point where I just really don't want to be around people.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. But with the friends that I have in this world, they do not allow me to be by myself. So when I do feel like I want to be alone, if I say that, it's usually not respected. Because
I was like, "Are you trying to quit me? You cannot quit me."
Personal thing. But I will say though that I do appreciate all of y'all, including you, Corey, because they don't want me to be in that space. So I feel like it's a little bit of anxiety, it's a little bit of depression, probably a little bit of both. But I haven't seen a doctor, so I don't know if that's exactly what it is. But self-diagnosing myself and doing a little bit of research on my own, that's what I've come up with. That I do suffer from anxiety.
I don't want to jump ahead, but I was holding back asking the next question. So when we get to the next question, because I'm so curious to why.
I know I have an answer for you. I know what the next question is, and I have an answer for you. I kind of said it just now, but when you ask me, I will answer you.
Well, what the fuck? What did I?
We ain't there yet. So do you yourself?
The next question.
You did.
Well, yeah, I already gave insight on how mental health affects me and how I cope. Which I think again, which works best for me is music and keeping myself busy. My anxiety is something that I'm still learning how to deal with, as well as my depression, because they are all fairly new, like diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fairly new to accepting the help. I was never like open about it. I never wanted to be like, oh, this is what's wrong with me. I don't even like to take aspirin, Tylenol, meds. I don't like to do any of those type of things. So yeah, like I was never really big on that. There's some days and weeks where I don't take my meds, and then it creates me to be off balance. And then we have to start all over again and try to balance me out, which again causes me to either oversleep, undersleep, or be angry or impulsive. So again, me personally, I feel like this question more so relates to the people that interact with me on a regular basis. I can see you.
Shout outs to the side camera because I know.
Applause was not here. No, I was gonna say, it can really be frustrating, guys, to those who's around me because every day is like a roller coaster, and dealing with me day in and day out. Not every day, but if it's 7 days in a week, 3. What you say? Over there.
It can be a roller coaster. It can definitely be a roller coaster.
Maybe like 3 to 4 days out of 7 could
about 5 out of 7. 5 out of 7 is a roller coaster.
I give it 4.
She says 4.
5. We had her in 2 different spaces in life.
Anyway, it requires a lot of patience. And then I also have young children that try to understand that mommy doesn't want to be bothered some days or whatever. And that's actually kind of hurtful because it's like, I don't want you guys to not see me being my best self. I always want to be my best self. I think I'm like super mom. But some days I just really can't do it. You know what I mean? And I feel like I can do more. I'm like my own worst enemy and my own worst critic. Like my standards that I have for myself are like up to here. So it's like when I don't meet them, then it's like, now we got 4 days of a crash and I got to pull this shit together. You know what I mean? And that's like really hard.
Do you deal with any mental health yourself, within yourself, Mason?
I mean, I think mine are very surface level, and I think that a lot of it I can address because over the last few months, definitely, and I think over the last few years, I've learned to pay more attention to me and, you know, actually just address things and learn more about me and learn more about, you know, different calming mechanisms and things like that and different stress relief mechanisms. So like I meditate, I believe in the power of gratitude and being grateful and, different things. So, I mean, for me, like, while I'm not as severe or I don't have, you know, I've not been diagnosed with certain things. I think that I do have certain levels of anxiety, and like I said, at some points depression, some points, those things do creep up, and I think I just deal with them through the tools that I've learned, to address those with.
Right. What do you guys feel like kind of like triggered your like the things that you guys feel like you have? Like for me, a lot of things that triggered my mental health concerns was like traumatic experiences. Most of the experiences I have experienced in my life, I kind of like just took on the chin and kind of suppressed them and was like, what a lot of people do is like, oh, this happened. We can't sit here and dwell on this. I gotta just keep moving forward.
And if you're not doing
you never
that,
really dealt with it. I never really dealt with a lot of things. Also, like the people who, again, because we talked about what shapes mental health. I have actually, like I said, I grew up in a household with a grandmother who has schizophrenia. So that's like growing up with your brother, but this is my grandma.
He wasn't like that
he wasn't like that when she was a kid. He got like that as an adult. I grew up seeing my grandmother talk to herself, have little moments. You know what I mean? Just whatever. Yeah, like being called things that you'd be like, well, damn, why you feel like that about me? It's not me. That doesn't have anything to do with me. My mom, who refuses to actually seek help and get a diagnosis. My uncle, who's probably like the smartest man that I know, having a PhD, but goes through these bipolar episodes. Mm-hmm. But these people all continue to truck on and keep trucking on, even though they have all of that going on.
I think that's very important, and I want to highlight that. I think that there is, and that pretty much answers the question to, today's topic. I think that a lot of the stigma about mental health and a lot of the conditioning that we've gotten, especially minorities. I'm going to speak for my own skin tone and my melanin here today. So, like, we're conditioned to truck on, to move on, to keep moving, to not, address feelings and things like that. And I've noticed that, growing up in a very diverse community, how one set of people, treat their kids as far as falling down, how another set will treat their kid as far as falling down. And that's something very simple, but there's a lot into that. For instance, Black people look at their kid and be like, you're not hurt. Get up. Man up.
Get up.
Man up. Get up. Man up. Another culture will run over there, pick their kid up, brush them off. How you feel? You okay? Does anything hurt?
Are you okay?
Are you exactly? They'll ask them, are they okay? They'll condition their children to tell them how they feel about anything and everything. Versus like
that's something that we definitely need to get out of. Like, as a culture in itself, we know that we do these things because our mothers did it to us, and their mothers
and their mothers and their mothers.
Okay, this conditioning goes way back beyond current day time. This conditioning that we face when it comes to any issue and how we feel, but especially when it comes to talking about our feelings, it definitely goes back to slavery time. I'm a big slave fan, not fan.
You're a big slave.
It was a fan for me.
Not slave.
She educates herself very, very much so when it comes to those types of topics.
I love
educate myself.
I was like, side panel.
On these type of issues.
I like to educate myself on Roots. I love Roots.
Oh God!
It was an amazing series. I love Underground.
Don't love none of them things.
I'm not gonna hold you. My mother, when she would watch that for a week, she was militant. Every other race culture could get it at that point.
Get it.
The whole 7 years.
Did you say something? Pack my bag. Put my food in the supermarket bag. Don't even look at me when you do it.
I'd be like, here we go, man. I'm gonna stop.
But again, like when you're dealing with any of these things, it's kind of like fighting yourself. When you're dealing with the people around yourself, or even within yourself, it's like fighting yourself over and over again. and just having to get back up and go to the other round. I don't know how many rounds is in boxing. I like boxing too, but 9 rounds,
12.
10 rounds,
12
rounds.
Well, what was Mike Tyson? Never mind.
Mike Tyson
that was an exhibition. That's not really boxing.
That ain't
he
talking
ain't
about
never
that.
made it past those 12 damn rounds.
But what do you guys think hinders people from seeking help, and what motivates people to want help?
This is what you wanted to ask me, right, Mason?
Yes.
What hinders me personally from getting help is the fear that it may be something that I don't think it is. I think it's is it something crazy? Like, what is it more than anxiety? Like, it's like a little bit of a fear thing.
Because
like, I'm
you have it in your
scared.
family.
I know that I have, certain things that are. I don't want to say mental illness is hereditary.
It is though.
But
It's
it
actually
can be.
genetic. It can be.
Yes. So I don't know what it is as far as like what a doctor would tell me. So I think that that's what hinders me personally. I don't want to be medicated. I don't want nobody looking at me crazy. Even though these people are trained and taught to be these people who deal with these type of issues.
Still people.
But I'm saying, I don't want them looking at me like, oh my God, do you need a hug? I don't want the pity. That's just not where I'm at in life. So I feel like if I self-medicate myself, that I would be fine.
And how do you self-medicate? How do you do for self-medication?
So I'm not gonna say. Here's one way right here.
Oh, one way.
Right here. Cheers. I drink.
This is coffee today.
I'm
but,
a drinker.
Coffee?
So,
This
Yeah,
time?
I'm gonna be up all night.
with alcohol.
Pause.
Lately,
Do you need a class?
since I haven't been sleeping, sleeping pills help, or sleeping things that put you to sleep. I'll say that. But I think that overall, a lot of people, they fear what they would hear at a doctor. They fear what people may think of them when they do find out what's wrong with them. They fear the judgment. They fear what medication might do. That's pretty much what I think.
So for me, I was personally against going to therapy and seeking help for several reasons. I had a bad experience with therapy at 10. I ended up in the hospital for 7 months, right? The therapist was white, and it really left me to feel like I needed to avoid telling people, but especially white people, how I felt, because I just felt like they can kind of like twist it and turn it and make it into something else. Like they kind of make a moon out of a mountain. I don't know if I said that right. Somebody get that for me. But the quote exactly. But yeah, no, I just didn't like that. It landed me in a hospital for 7 months. So from that experience, I learned to play the normal game, right?
Okay.
I learned to kind of like educate myself on these things and learn how to deal with them on my own versus going and talk to somebody else about my problems. And then it also, me learning the normal game and educating myself led me to my field of work, which I feel like helps me cope as well. Because dealing with my clients kind of make me feel like, well, I'm helping them. We're helping each other, kind of like we be helping each other. I will sit there and cry with my clients and everything, like, but they trust me. And I can be my truest self with them because I can say, you know what, I experienced that too, or I feel like that too. I can relate to them. Another factor for me personally is that there's not enough therapists or psychologists of our skin color. I don't feel like white people can relate to us. So if you're not my ethnic background, like I live in Pennsylvania, so like when I first decided to go and get help and become medicated and do all the things that I was supposed to do, I went to also seek a therapist. And it was really hard for me, and it's still hard for me, to find a African American psychologist or therapist or whatever. So I had watched this interview with Taraji, and she noticed the same thing because her father suffered from PTSD from being a veteran. So she created a foundation that you can actually go to, and they do kind of point you in the right direction of African American therapists and so on and so forth. I guess of all networks and stuff like that. So I definitely want to shout her out. I think what motivates people in itself, though, to seek help is having the people to support them. If you feel like you're supported, you're more likely to do something, whether it be good or it could be bad. For people to understand them, for people to have patience, and most importantly, to realize that nothing is personal with a person who's suffering from mental health, who's dealing with their mental health, because mental health and mental illness is different. So a person that takes time to themselves and wants to deal with their mental health and address that, you need to give them their time. Don't take it personal, even though she can't quit me. A person that's dealing with their mental illness, whatever they're going through, whether it be erratic behavior or spazzing out, maybe like cursing you out that day, they might come back to you in 24 hours, be like, yo, girl, I was myself. I'm sorry. I don't mean it like that.
That is definitely me.
Oh, whatever the case is. Like, you got to have the people who understand you and understand that this has nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think having empathy and not sympathy, like, I do not want you to feel bad for me for something that I cannot control, like today. No, don't feel bad for me, but understand me.
What I have wrote down for why people seek help is because sometimes that mental illness may become unbearable. You know how we self-diagnose, we self-medicate. Sometimes it'll get to a point where, damn, I need help. Like, I can't do this. I tried, but it ain't working. I need to see somebody. And also sometimes this is what my brother told me out his own mouth. Because dealing with schizophrenia, they go through the ups and downs of, I'm okay, I don't need these medications. So I had asked him, I'm like, well, why don't you just get the help you need, or why do you feel like you need help, or whatever the case may be? And he told me out his mouth, I just want to be normal. A lot of people who deal with mental illness, they just really want to be normal. And that's a sadness in itself. Like, damn.
But they are normal. That's the funny thing.
No, but I'm saying, but from somebody who's dealing with mental illness and the stereotype that comes along with it and how you're treated and how people judge you, in all actuality, the way that everybody portrays you is you're not normal. So when you ask
you're
them,
crazy. I hate
when
that.
You ask them, and you say, like, well, why do you feel like you need to get help? Like, why do you feel like you want to take the medication? That's usually the answer you're gonna get. I really just want to be normal like everybody else.
Want to be normal. I think it's really important too for people to not moralize people or shame them or blame them, like, for their actions. I don't know. I just really feel like it's the judging. Like, we don't want to be judged by other people.
That's the one word that I wrote down. It's the judgment, like, on all aspects of it. Like, as human beings, we fear, and that we're social creatures, and judgment will stop us. It will propel us. It will, depending on the individual. So I mean, it's important to not judge, and I think that it's easier said than done. And I think that sometimes it's built up in your head that you think that someone is judging you or that society is judging you. And I think that nowadays it's a little bit more cooler, quote unquote, to actually seek help and therapy is not as taboo as it was 10 to 15 years ago.
Right.
I don't think, in my opinion. I think therapy now is something normal. If somebody said to me they were going to therapy, I don't think I would think twice about it. I don't think I would look at them in any way different than I would look at them before they told me. So I think that a lot of those things are becoming norm, and I think that that's what we need to keep pushing. I think that us having this conversation, this open dialogue, people of color, 10 years ago, us having this, conversation would make us papyrus. They'll look at us like, oh man, like what
is going on?
Exactly.
Not that we don't know what we're talking about. We're crazy for talking about the things that we're talking about.
Exactly. And I think that affects and hinders our culture just because of the fear and the stigma of the judgment. When all this stuff is normal, all this stuff is okay, all these conditions, all these feelings, all these emotions, all these thoughts, all these These are all normal things that people go through. Everyone goes through different levels of it. You know, we're not all the same, and that's okay. And people need to be comfortable in knowing that that's okay. We need to be comfortable as a society knowing that, yo, we've been through a lot. We should talk to somebody.
As
The
a black
other,
person,
I'll
we
give you a
got
great.
reason to be
I'll,
angry.
I'll give you a great recent example. So the other day, Versus was happening. You guys watch Versus? All right. So Versus, Versus was happening. Long story short, it was SWV versus
I heard about it.
Escape. Right. Long story short, one of the members of SWV just witnessed somebody getting murdered outside of their hotel room, and they had to go perform. Now, what state of mind would you be in if you had just witnessed somebody get murdered? You're seeing the blood, you're seeing all this, not to be graphic, but you're seeing all this, and then you have to go perform happy songs.
You know, I wouldn't be in a state of mind where I might even show up to perform.
That's a great example of a trauma that that person went through. And as Black people, as artists, entertainers, whatever, you're taught to push through. Pushing
Right.
through is one thing, but you got to go back, double back, and address that. And
Yeah.
she should have a conversation with somebody that's a professional.
I hope
There's
that
nothing wrong with that.
I hope that she did.
I hope so.
Because I mean, all types of thoughts are going through my mind. If I was like, I got questions, but I ain't going to ask you because you don't know the answers. But you wasn't there.
No,
but
I saw the performance though. She definitely, pulled it together, and
she put
shout
it
out
together?
to her. Shout out to her.
Shout out to her. Which one was that?
It was Coco from SWV.
Oh, okay. Well, let's make sure we say a prayer for Coco from SWV tonight, because for her mental health. Yes, awareness. Be aware
and that
of
carries on. That just doesn't end in that night and in that circumstance. That carries on. Like that could be something that she will forever have to deal with, and that's something that you need to address. It's okay to address that.
Absolutely.
But most people, they hold that in, and that's what we've been conditioned to do. So that's what it is. It's the judgment of it.
Yeah, because I know, like, growing up and I was going to the therapist, my mama would be like, don't be over there telling them white people nothing. Like, what's going on? Like, she's telling me that it's wrong to even disclose how I really feel or, you know what I mean? Or just, she didn't know whether the therapist was white or black. I mean, she asked that first, but, her first initial conversation leading was, don't be telling them. Well, what is she after the fact? But you already said, don't be telling them
our business.
You know what I'm saying? We're taught that what goes on in our house stays in our house. Like, well, how can I talk about my feelings if you feel this way? Yeah. And I think that mental health definitely goes into raising kids, like, or into just being like social interactions, period, whether it's with your family, your friends, your whatever, your kids, it definitely contributes to all of those things. Because like I said, my kids are definitely affected, like, by some days I feel like they might not even see me. Okay, put it that like they get them to school, get in the bed. I don't know. Just do it.
This generation is seeing things that we have never seen in our lifetimes, from pandemics to staying home to closings to vaccines to and that's surface level. Like there's a ripple effect from that. The social effects of not being in school and socializing with your friends, learning a different way. Like there's so many things that we're probably gonna have to deal with.
We need to definitely check in with our kids to see if they might need to speak to somebody in reference to these things. I think that this generation is going to definitely grow up with some type of anxiety and depression and all of those things. Not to mention the music that this generation listens to. I just think that it's absurd, and that definitely contributes to the way that they may feel.
I have my own opinions on that. I think music is so influential and all over the place, and I think that's a problem that you've seen in every generation. I think that our parents said that the music we were listening to was too this, that, and the third, and vulgar. And when you go back and you listen to it, you're like, I don't know if you could put that out in this era. Like I can't see this particular song doing well in this era. You know what I'm saying?
What we
Like,
were listening to as opposed to what they're listening to is two total different things.
I know, but our parents said the same thing. Our parents said the same thing.
Because when you go back even further, it used to be so subtle. Now it's like, bitch, put this dick in your mouth.
Let me tell you something. It wasn't subtle.
On the
Like,
mental
we remember it being subtle.
Hold on.
It wasn't
you
subtle.
know the song Candy Liquor?
I mean, they had songs that was straight to forward, but a lot of the music.
All of Luke, Little Kim, Biggie,
but look, that's
DMX.
As time changed, it became more like. But I feel like it's definitely way more vulgar these days. Way more vulgar.
What did he say, Jay? Fuck you up a perk? What did he say?
Yeah, I want to fuck you over perk or some shit like
I don't know what the TikTok song was. Anyway, we're getting off topic.
Oh, that perk. Yeah, I know that song.
I would ask you, Mason,
go out. I'm just letting you know. You play that and it party goes off. But
so the next question that I have for you guys is, what are the pros and cons of disclosing mental illness? But before we jump into that, I have a video that I would like to play from a friend who was brave enough to actually post this on TikTok with her own personal experience of anxiety. When I first watched it, I was like, oh, wow, this is like kind of actually painful to watch, because she has a like more severe level of anxiety, I guess, or this is like, I don't know. I don't feel like that. Where I mean, I never tried that, but I want to definitely watch it. And did it finish?
that was it.
That was not it.
That's the length of the one we got.
Is it? What was it? 43 seconds.
It was 43 seconds.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, that is how it ends. But her name is Creativity Killer on Instagram and on TikTok. Do you have the picture of how she said that anxiety makes her feel? And when we post that, I'm going to go into what she wanted us to know from her perspective.
No, I just have the video. I don't have.
Well, I have the picture.
You got the picture, but you ain't got.
I don't have it to load.
Well, what she said, and Miss Lizzie Baby is looking and finding the picture, was, I will just say to remember that anxiety comes in many forms and is different for everyone. And the same goes for depression, PTSD, bipolar, etc. It's not always visually seen like a physical illness, but it doesn't make it any less real or heavy. There has been a huge increase of anxiety and depression among other mental illnesses since the start of the pandemic, and many are struggling with it for the first time. Take time to find out what works for you, whether that's therapy, medication, meditation, or any form of positive coping mechanisms that are meant for you, because everyone heals and deals differently. Everyone is at different levels and different stages with their mental illness and or mental health. So that was from @Creativity, KREATIVE.
And I did show the picture in case you missed it.
If you guys missed it, this is what she said. Her anxiety makes her feel. She said doing her makeup is how she copes. So this is her actually. She did a makeup look.
So what we'll do is we'll just edit it in at that point.
We'll edit it in. Yeah,
we'll just add it in.
We'll add it. Yeah. So, but what are the pros and cons? Because that was great. That was posted on TikTok, and I think she actually got like.
I wrote for pros. I wrote you'll receive understanding. I wrote you'll receive support and encouragement. You're more open and less worried about hiding it from people. As far as cons goes, when you open up, you might receive judgment. As far as like friends, family, even jobs. Sometimes a job won't hire you due to your mental illness. So that's potential discrimination. No support system. Feeling lonely in this situation. Just only make sure mental illness worse than what it is. But that's basically what I have now.
I said the pros for me is that you really never know who you may be like talking to or entertaining. That's a gift and a curse, but I'm a more of an optimistic type of person. I say that to say like you could be talking to somebody who's going through the same exact thing as you. You know what I mean? And each one teach one. It's our job to enlighten others. And even if you are interacting with someone who doesn't know as much about your mental health disorders or diagnosis, because I don't like the word disorders, I like diagnosis better. If you are interacting with somebody like that, you can actually like just teach them. I believe that when you disclose to people, they have a better way of dealing with you versus just assuming that you're crazy and you're acting erratic. It's more of an informative approach. You know what I mean? So I said that the cons, I personally always knew that something was different about me. I always knew something was different about my family. Especially the ones that I knew something was different about my family because I grew up in 14 different families, right? Being a kid growing up in foster care, you meet a lot of different people, and I experienced society's norms, right? Because when they place you in a foster home, this is supposed to be a normal environment. And usually you're taught that these situations are better than your own current situation at home. So automatically society says you should be traumatized by these situations and events that occur because we're removing you, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I think that was more traumatizing in itself for you to tell me that my family was traumatizing. I don't know. That could be a thing. Like, wow, damn, I didn't know that these people were like not normal my whole life. You know what I mean? I said dealing with mental health as an adult is being more emotionally intelligent. Once I decided to get on my meds and started becoming more open about my diagnosis with people I love and care about and work with, I had a varied response at a time. I had employers. Remember when I used to say that? My employers used to ask me, like, well, who am I speaking to today? Like, if I'm coming in and I'm not like my bubbly self or whatever, like, well, who are you today? Like, are you yourself, Corinne? Am I speaking to you? Can you perform your job well enough? I had people say that I was fighting demons, exclaiming that I was crazy. I have people who ask me, did I take my meds today? Like, as if it's not normal that people can still just get angry. And I hate that. Like, I hate the question about, like, did you take your meds today? Because I can guarantee you, like, whether I'm on my meds or not, if you disrespect me or do something that I don't like, you're going to get the same response.
Don't agree.
She don't agree?
I don't agree. I feel like your response when you're on your meds is way more controlled than it is when you're not.
Well, this is coming from my co-host.
This is coming from somebody who's experienced all of her personalities. I definitely feel like when you're medicated, you are more conscious of how you respond. You may still respond in a similar manner, but you're more conscious of how you respond. When you're not medicated, it's we're going. Are you ready to go? Buckle up.
We're out of here.
We're not going to
the
Mountain either, Mason. We're going to the Mars.
Oh, it's
more
side panel says the meds help.
The meds help. She's more conscious of how she responds. She may still be angry. She may still be aggravated. She may even still curse at you. But it ain't like when she's off the meds.
Well, okay. What are you saying, Mason? What is people's pros and cons? Why do they want to seek help or not?
You guys are breaking up a little bit, so I hope that came through as clear as possible because you were making some really great points there.
Yeah, we were.
So I hope that came through good. I think that the pros and the cons are the same. I think if you actually figure out what is happening and what's going on, you can address it. That's the pro. And then the con is if you don't figure out what's going on, you can never address it. And that's the con. So, I mean, for me,
This
for
man
me,
is a man of very few words, but he
But
makes
when
the
he
point.
makes those words,
it's true. I don't mean to be. I don't mean to be like that, but the honest truth of it is like, yo, if you know what's happening, you can address it. And the hardest part about it is going to find out what's happening. So I mean, it's the self awareness of it. So the pros are you can get tools to help you be a better you. Um, whether it be medication, sometimes it's not even medication. Sometimes we overthink it and we're like, oh, it's medication. It's something as simple as drinking some herbal tea and taking some time to
He's correct.
not deal with things.
He thinks that the T works.
No, I'm telling for some levels, there's levels to everything. There's somebody out there that's drinking tea and it's
I
it's
want
the
to say
difference.
that tea
It's
used to be a coping mechanism for me. It don't work for me no more though.
I didn't know that, but I'm saying, see what I'm saying?
It
Somebody out there.
it used to relax my. If I had a stressful day, I dead serious will come home and make tea.
I don't have the statistics to show it, but I know that tea is definitely a coping mechanism. It's calming, and if you do things while you're drinking tea or while you're de-stressing, I think all those things help. Like meditation is something that I've brought up a couple of times during this
You
conversation.
meditate?
I do meditate, and I think that's something
Can you
that
tell us what that looks like?
for me there's different types of, well, not for me, but in general there's different types of meditation. For me, um the most the easiest one for me to do is guided meditation. There's apps for it, such as Calm is a great app that you can literally close your eyes and listen to the voice, and it'll tell you exactly what to do, what to think, how to breathe. Breathing is a huge thing. I've taken yoga, I've taken hot yoga, I've taken regular yoga. I know, but I'm okay with being judged. So I mean, I've done all those things as far as in helping me to relax, because like I told you, I was overworked, I was stressed.
Take dance.
Huh?
Take dance.
No, that's not happening. So again, you have to find what works for you. For me, what worked was yoga. For me, what works was exercise, things of that nature, and those are the things that helped me to either de-stress, relieve some of my anxiety. Again, different people, different
Differently for
things.
different people. Because for me, meditation doesn't necessarily it's so hard for me to get quiet in here that I struggle with meditation. It doesn't work. I feel like a form of me meditating is like when I do my music and I sit down and I write. Is that kind of like meditating?
That
Because
is
I'm not
meditation.
talking to myself.
You're at peace. You're at peace. You're doing something simple, and you're taking away the extra stuff. You're peeling
But it
away
has
the
to be
layers.
quiet. Like nobody can't be talking to me. Nobody can't be like, I don't want nobody on my phone. Like, no.
That is definitely meditation. You are taking
Yeah.
time for yourself. Meditation is basically you eliminating the outside world and focusing on the inside world. So it's just focusing on yourself and your inner
Mm-hmm.
peace and your inner thoughts, and it's basically peeling away the extra stuff. So when you're meditating, you're basically concentrating on something as simple as breathing. You ever stop and think about how grateful and how amazing it is that you're still breathing?
I got the gratitude book. It says to appreciate. No, I'm working on it. No, but bro, did
I
you?
saw that book. And I didn't read it, but I'm a big believer in affirmations, gratitude,
Yeah.
starting every day with gratitude, starting every day being thankful, and all that stuff.
Did you ever try to focus on your breathing and then you'd be like, oh my God, I'm not breathing right?
All the time.
Okay, just wanted to know if it was just.
You know what's funny about meditation? Like you don't get it, and no one gets it right away. Like you don't start meditating for hours. Like no one starts that way. Like there's always thoughts that creep up into your mind. Like I'll start thinking about the weirdest thing. Like, man, what am I gonna have for dinner after this? I'm like, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. Why am I thinking about dinner? But just random thoughts will run into your mind, and that's okay. What you have to do is, okay, let that thought go and come back to breathing.
Um,
That's what I've been taught.
that's dope really being able to do that. I really do feel like just doing this topic alone was some type of form of therapy for me, because I really wish that you could see what I have over here and the thought and like the emotion that I had to be like, well, do I want to happen to this? Do I want to happen to that? Like, you know, what's going on? I just think that this topic in itself was therapeutic to just be able to talk about it and get it out. So what does the word stigma mean to you? And how do you think stigma is perpetuated?
So I wrote stigma is basically being labeled as a disgrace with a specific situation.
Hmm.
I also wrote that how it's perpetuated, I can never say this word right, is media.
You said it right.
Media depictions. I see this online. It said media depictions where a villain is often a character with mental illness. And treating mental illness, people who deal with mental illness, like they can get over it. Like you can overcome that. You'll be okay. You can work through those emotions. Mm-hmm. You can work through how that feels. You can work through all those personalities. You can work through all that. You can do it. I promise. That's what I think.
Right. I said the word stigma to me means being misunderstood. It's like having a dark cloud on your reputation for something you didn't act to be, nor did you have any control over. Most of the times when it comes to our reputation, we have kind of like a little bit of control over it. It's either a little bit true or like not, you know what I mean? Not true at all. But this is something that we don't have no control over. I said some disorders people discredit and think, oh, you can beat it or you can snap out of it. And people don't realize that there are several disorders that have no real treatment. Like there's no way to fix it. The brain is just too complex for people to understand, and each one is different, and it actually just does what it wants. I think stigma is always perpetuated. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Negatively, especially in media. So if you think about people like Michael Jackson and how they were like Jacko Wacko, or Kanye West. Mm-hmm. They make fun. Media makes fun of the things that they say and they do, and not really realize that
people need help.
They need help. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be making fun of them. You should really have like empathy towards them and encourage them to seek help.
Another person is Lizzo. They make a lot of fun of Lizzo. And
Summer Walker, right? Because she deals with something where she can't like perform. Is that anxiety?
It's a form of anxiety. I don't know.
Yeah, she don't.
It's a form of anxiety.
Mm-hmm. What's wrong with Lizzo again?
I think that Lizzo's dealing with depression.
Yeah,
she just recently posted a video on TikTok where she was actually crying, and she was like, "Can we just like normalize the fact that people feel like no one wants them around, like that no one loves me or something like that?" If you go to her TikTok, you can definitely see the video, but she definitely has been dealing with a lot of different emotional things. And I know depression is one of them.
So what do you think, Mason?
I mean, I think for me, stigma is a lot of what we're saying. I'm going to pull from different parts of it. It's fear of what you've made up in your mind as things that'll happen if you put yourself out there. So I think that the stigma of things sometimes is greater than what the actual situation will be. So people think, I'll be judged and all this stuff, and they don't look at the benefits of actually going out and seeking help. So, it's better for them to stay strong and man up and hold it all in because, that's the expectation. So they don't want to figure it out. They don't want to go over there and put themselves out there. So I think, for me, it's the fear of what the judgment will be. So for me, the stigma is the fear of what the judgment will be.
Okay.
I agree.
What do you think has the most positive or negative impact on your mental health?
Your environment.
Yeah. What you surround yourself with? Do you surround yourself with positive people? Are you surrounding yourself with people who want to be something? Sometimes a lot of people go through, within myself, I think I go through a lot of, where am I supposed to be at in life? Am I there? What do I got to do to get there? Now, if I surround myself with people who are comfortable with where they are and they're nowhere better than where I am, that rubs off on me. If I surround myself with people who are uplifting me and telling me, "Oh, you can do this and you can do that," and even though you're not where you're gonna be, where you want to be at in life, you're gonna get there. That's important for your mental health because I think naturally, especially as a single mom currently, we naturally beat ourselves down for what we should be doing or could be doing or whatever the case may be. And the situation itself takes a toll on you. So not only are you overworked, overwhelmed, you don't have much time for yourself, you're trying to be where you want to be in the blink of an eye. But in all actuality, that's not the truth. It doesn't happen like that.
Girl, I'll be speeding. You know, I'll be like speed, like 90 on the highway. I think, like I said earlier, the most and positive impact for me is definitely regrouping, needing time for myself to process. I'm always thinking about 1,000,001 things, and I don't really give myself time to process and live in the moment. So maybe more living in the moment would be like a positive thing. When I'm alone is when I have my serious talks with myself, and it's easier for me to engage and stuff like that. I don't know. I gotta check in with myself. I have to check in with myself before I can check in with anybody else. So, sorry guys. What are
some of the mental health barriers? How can we break mental health barriers within our community? I think there are plenty of mental health barriers. One of the biggest mental health barriers, I think, is the fact that healthcare is not as accessible. When I say that, I know people. I have a very close friend of mine who deals with depression and also bipolar. And she should be medicated. She's medicated. She has medicine she takes. When she takes her medicine, she's fine. When she's off her medicine, it's suicidal thoughts. It's all types of things. So I'm constantly a support system for her. I'm constantly on her ass. You take your medicine today. You take your meds this week. Are you okay? How you feeling? It's constantly me checking on her. But we definitely just went through something where her Medicaid was cut off. There was nothing put in place for her to still receive those meds. So I was dealing with her telling me daily that I want to drive my car off the highway. I want to kill myself. Why am I here? Why do you love me? Why do people want to be around me? What purpose do I bring to you? And this is because she was off her meds and there was nothing in place for her to still receive those, besides the fact that she had to dig in her pocket and pay $650 for some medication she could not afford. So that is definitely a barrier that I feel is very prevalent in our community, is that healthcare is not always accessible. You cannot always afford this treatment that you need for whatever mental illness it is that you are dealing with. And there aren't things in place to make sure that those things are given to you.
Yeah.
If I suffer with mental illness and you're my psychiatrist and you know that I need these meds to be okay, that I won't slit my wrist or slit my throat tonight, regardless of how much money I make, regardless of if I have a job, regardless of if I have Medicaid, regardless of if I have a doctor, I should receive those medications because they're going to make sure that I'm here for when I can get my medical assistance. They're going to make sure I'm here for when I can get a job. But there's nothing in place for that.
Ooh, girl, I think the hairs on my little arms is woo! Yeah! That was good. No, that was a good one. That was something that I definitely overlooked as a person because I'll be like, what? I'm a bottom meds because I gotta get it.
There are people out here who
can't afford them. Yeah, no.
They can't. And it's like that she went almost a whole month with no medication.
Yeah.
And now she finally got her medication back, and that's a whole process to get back into the meds, to get back to being okay. And then, when you're a friend and this is somebody you care about, you have to constantly tell this person, you're enough. I love you. You're great. You're beautiful. You're special. You're this, you're that. You have to do that because people with certain situations will do these things that they're saying. When I tell you, Mason, she looked me in my face and told me, I'm going to drive my car off the highway today.
I take all that stuff seriously. Like
That's
when
not
people
to be
say things
taken
like
as a
that, I
joke.
take it
I
seriously.
wasn't taking it as a joke because I
No.
knew she was serious. When she said it to me, she was crying. So I'm just like, this is somebody I care about. I'm not going to let her drive her car off of a highway. Like, you're not going home. You're not driving, matter of fact. So I didn't let her drive that whole day until I knew that she was okay.
Mm-hmm. And that's good. That's a good friend, because it's too many times that we wonder, like, well, how did this person kill themselves, or how did this person do this? And it's like, well, what were the signs that they were displaying? And the real thing about suicide is that they let somebody know something most of the time. I used to have this saying that says, well, people who really want to kill themselves, this is me being an ignorant person, all right.
Ain't telling nobody, you just doing it.
And I said, you ain't telling nobody, you just doing it. So right now, are you seeking attention, whether it's negative or whether it's positive? Through my time of becoming emotionally intelligent, I've learned, like, yeah, they might be seeking attention, but they're dead ass serious. Like, you cannot take it for a joke. So, yeah, I definitely think. Sorry, guys. What's the barriers in our community? I think for me, some mental health barriers that we encounter in our own community is basically the stigma in itself. Acknowledging that, one, that there's something going on. Two, that there's something going on with everybody. It's not just you. And three, there's something going on. We need to just try to figure out how to fix it. Let's not try to throw the rug over it and cover it up or suppress it. Let's really speak out and talk about how we're feeling.
And if it's not fixable, accept it.
And if it's not fixable, accepting that. I definitely think that having more therapists of color in place, or psychologists of color in place, will be beneficial to a lot of people within our own community. What else did I say? I said that I believe that there's a lack of resources for African Americans, and the suicide rate has doubled. The amount of men that occupy our jail systems is mostly Black men. Mm-hmm. They don't seek help while they are in jail, nor while they are out of jail. They come out of that environment and they think that they can be normal, and then they end up going back. They are repeat offenders. Why? It's because of their mental health.
Church maker.
Go ahead, church maker girl.
Sidebar. Now that I deal with somebody who is incarcerated, I will definitely say this is not the first time he's been incarcerated, but there has definitely, over time, they have had something set up for inmates to receive psych. What is the word I want to say?
Psych evaluation.
Psych evaluation. Help. They have therapists set up within the prison if they do.
Is that now because of the pandemic?
That is now. I don't think that it's because of the pandemic. I think that it's just in general. But I won't know until the pandemic's over.
I think that it's because of the pandemic.
That they have it set up because he is definitely sitting with a therapist when he feels the need to do so. So I think
it should be mandatory. I think that they should really make each and every man or woman, but especially men and women of color that is incarcerated, see a psych. I think that they need to see that while they are in jail, and then when they come home, that should be a part of their probation stipulations. I do, because there's so much things that people that are incarcerated encounter, and it's overlooked, underlooked. It's just thrown to the wayside. It's like, oh, you did the crime, you gonna have to do it. But think about how many people is really in jail and they never even really did anything. Think about the psyche that they have now, and with the mental that they have. So I think that really, all in a nutshell, what I'm saying is educating ourselves is key. Being supportive for one another is key.
Regardless of what you're dealing with yourself is best, especially if somebody comes to you. Be supportive. I got a question though. This is definitely within the topic, but I got a question. Would you personally call 911 for someone that you feel is dealing with severe mental illness?
I know where this question's coming from, so I'm gonna let Mason go first.
Would I call 911? It depends on who it is, what's happening. And for me personally, I've been through a lot of situations where I could probably talk to people more, and I'll probably gear towards that, especially if I see and you can tell it's something that's not quite, right. And it's not quite, a situation where if the police come, I don't trust in the police enough to say that I think that they're going to talk the person down nowadays.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like depending on the person, depending on like the police is not the first person I'll probably call.
What would you call
Just
it?
because of that. I know that in New York, I know that there's a lot of changes going on where they're trying to, have ambulances and even fire departments come instead of police when there is a psychological situation. That's what they're trying to do. Is that what it's going on?
Do it. Because
Trying.
like 3 weeks ago, when they went to get my brother, they tore my mother's house up trying to get him out their house. Tore it up. Promise.
And it's probably no need. He probably would have responded better to a conversation or a you know what I'm saying? By a trained individual.
My brother deals with schizophrenia though, so it's a touch and go situation with schizophrenia.
Yeah, because you don't know who you dealing with.
You don't know who you're dealing with or what you're dealing with until you're in that situation. And it can go left or it can go right. Or it can go squiggly, or it can go up, or it can go down. It doesn't. No one ever knows which way that's gonna go. And that day it went all the way left.
Wow. Well.
Just so you know, we're at like 1:30, so I don't know if you want to.
Oh yeah, this was the end. This was the end of the episode. Actually, I just want to shout out my shirt because it's important in this topic because it says. Do y'all see what it says?
We are all a piece of art in progress. We are.
And we are. And we are. Yeah.
I definitely agree. I definitely think that we all, us, people listening, people watching this episode, if you feel like you're dealing with something that you can't deal with on your own, if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to a doctor or a therapist or a psychiatrist, reach out to somebody who really cares about you because people will listen. Somebody will help you.
You can hit us up in our DMs.
Yes,
we gonna listen.
Definitely.
We will respond. Each and every one of us. You can actually reach out to us, and we'll point you in the right direction that you need to be going in. And just even if you don't want to seek any help, we'll just be an ear to listen and someone to talk to. But that was today's episode of Hush Your Mouth. Thank you guys for joining.
Thank you. Shout outs to all the listeners.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We here. Hush your mouth. Hush your mouth.